morning, Amber. Always good to see you.
Great to see you all.
Oh, we lost our iPhone person.
Me too. Maybe they'll hop back in. Well, Gail, welcome. Mary and Bethany, I'm just gonna move forward to the next slide if you want to start with your quick intro.
Yeah, sounds good.
Or quick housekeeping. During this session, we're not going to give any updates on applications, just about new applications and information about Highpoint Virtual Academy and their special education open positions. Feel free to talk in the chat or put your questions in the Q&A box. We will answer them all, and we'll also send out a recording after the event.
Well, and Gail, you fortunately or unfortunately have our undivided attention for now. So if you have questions, feel free to, just ask and put in the chat. And then we have some time at the end where I'm just, we'll just let you go talk with Bethany, who you can see there is our special programs manager. And I am the head of school. And Bethany has been with me for what is it now? Oh, almost 3 years as a special education manager. And I've been at the school since 2016 when we opened about 7 years ago. So Courtney, if you want to move forward. And hello, Laura. So just a little bit about Highpoint. We are a K through 12 school. We are a public, not-for-profit school. I get that question a lot. So even though our students go to school from home and our teachers work from home, we are a public school. We follow all of the state guidelines. We hire licensed certified teachers. So if you are experienced in a public brick and mortar district, things look a little different. Bethany is going to talk about that. But at the end of the day, we are doing the same things and meeting the same requirements for our students. We have grown a lot over the last few years. Pre-COVID, we had about 1,000 students, and in the last, about 2-3 years, we've almost tripled in size. So right now we're at about 3,200 students, and we have almost 200 staff, which is why we're having these conversations right now. You might be interested in the position in the fall, or really we're looking for people to start immediately if this is something that you think you might be interested in. So when you talk to Bethany or I at the end, we'll talk a little bit about that timeline. Just some interesting facts about the school. We opened, like I mentioned, in 2016. So we've been around for a while. We have the privilege of being the first fully online early middle college program in Michigan. So if you are familiar with that program, it allows students to stay for a 13th year and earn their associates. So we just had our first set of grads last year. It was really exciting. We partner with Baker College and Davenport University. So kids get to graduate with a high school diploma and associates all at the same time from home online. So it's pretty cool. I think we might be able to brag that we're the only school in the country that does that, but I'm not allowed to say that because I can't verify it, but I think that's true. We do a lot of in-person events. We have our family and staff located all around Michigan. And so we try to find regional opportunities for staff to get together, for our students to get together. So even though we're virtual, I think most days it doesn't really feel like we're virtual because we have these great relationships with our families and our, and our staff, and we're able to see them in person. And lots of club and esports opportunities. We don't have a football team, but I hear our chess team is the one to beat. So we've got lots of great opportunities for kids. And if you had any experience teaching online during the pandemic, this is probably not that. It's way different from sort of that emergency learning with a really well-developed curriculum that we have from Stride K-12. And so we'll talk a little bit about that with regards to the special programs. But yeah, Courtney, do you want to scroll forward a little bit? Bethany is going to talk again more specifically to the special education role, but we do need a teaching certification, or if you've let your license lapse, Maybe you're thinking about coming out of retirement, or maybe you're working through a special education program right now, thinking about special education. We're definitely open to having those conversations about your qualifications. Michigan's pretty open right now to help us get some teachers through the door. We do prefer that our candidates live in Michigan. We have one exception to that rule, but for the most part, we have our staff here so that we can do those in-person events. Most of our staff start, you can see there in that $40,000 to $45,000 a year range as salary. And we do have a pretty standard school year calendar, right? So it kind of matches what you'd see in that brick and mortar kind of setting. And again, we're open to looking at different certifications to get the right people through the door. So Bethany, do you want to talk about life as a special education teacher online?
Sure. So, welcome everyone. It's so great to have you here. Before I landed in this amazing position, I was a resource teacher for another K-12 Michigan school. Before that, I was in brick and mortar for about 12 years. So, I am one of the brick and mortar starters and found virtual before COVID hit and have not looked back since. So, I have been in a resource position for high school. And like Mary mentioned, we are K through 12th grade here at HFAM. So that looks a little bit different as far as being an elementary resource teacher compared to a middle school or a high school teacher. We also have our self-contained program for students that are on alternate standards and taking alternate assessments. So we have that self-contained program as well, which has grown quite a bit. We now have 4 teachers and a parapro in there. So we're actually looking for another teacher for that program, as well as some special education teachers for elementary, possibly middle, high school as well, because our numbers are just, we're the place to be is what's happening this year. So we're expanding our staff. So what those days look like, basically your schedules are including live sessions with students. So you would get your caseload of, around 20 students. Elementary is 21 is the cap. Middle school and high school, we cap at 23 students. Um, and what that looks like is you would get your caseload of students, then you would look at their needs, you would look through their IEP goals, look at their services, determine what their needs are, and then you would schedule those sessions throughout the week. So really your time that you're teaching live with students is based on your caseload needs. So there might be some push in with some co-teaching at the high school level. If you had a high school caseload, we work really closely with our high school general education teachers so we can provide, that support for algebra and geometry and those tougher classes along with IEP goal areas. Middle school, we do some co-teaching. Elementary is mostly one-on-one in small groups at this time because that is what we have found is best based on student needs this school year. So sometimes our model changes a little bit based on our population. It might be, like I said, those small sessions, maybe a little bit bigger session with 10 students that have, the same goal needs. Otherwise, it's typically 5 or less students in a session. So, for example, you might have a reading group that meets 3 times a week for 30 to 45 minutes. Then you might have a couple writing groups that meet a couple times a week. Then you might have a couple math groups. So, what that translates to is between 15 and 20 hours a week that you're teaching live with students. So the rest of your work days and the rest of your work week, you have time to do all of that lovely paperwork that comes along with the special education world. You have time to schedule meetings. You have time to schedule IEPs, reads, NETs, any special education meetings. You have time to communicate with families as needed. Follow up on progress reporting. You really have that dedicated time in your daily schedule versus having some students show up at your classroom halfway through the day and you've got 2 or 3 kids that you weren't expecting and they just need you right now. Your time is very dedicated throughout the day and very scheduled. You have your sessions, then you have time to get your work complete, you have time for your lunch. We have our district meetings, we have our department meetings that are already scheduled in, ahead of time when when you have those meetings, and then you can schedule student times around that. So days include, like I said, some live time with students. You might be in a gen ed classroom a couple days a week helping out. And then the other time would be dedicated to completing that paperwork and the other side of the special education world. So I hope that gives everyone a little bit of an overview, but any specific questions on what that looks like, please definitely ask because obviously we don't know what everybody's background is, what everybody's experience is. Some of you may be in a traditional brick and mortar resource position. You might, maybe this is your first special ed position, maybe you're fresh out of college. Not sure. So, any questions you have about what that day to day life looks like, I'm happy to answer any additional questions that you have.
I did want to highlight one thing really quickly, Bethany. I think you sort of hint at this and kind of describing the day to day, but I think the really nice part of this job is that I think for any teacher, whether it's special education or gen ed, um, you're in your classroom, go, 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 go all day, and then you still have the planning and the paperwork and all the pieces that have to get done. And so that's what you're spending your evenings and your weekends on. And not that there aren't moments in this model where you're working nights and weekends, to kind of stay on top of things. There are heavier moments during the year, of course, with IEPs, but um, it's sort of built into your day and your week that you have time to do that. So if 15 hours are spent live instruction, then you have, 25 hours, check my math, to be working on those other pieces that we know are really important as well. So again, I think we'll find that it gives you a little bit of your personal life back when
It's
you.
yes, that work life balance. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Mary, but I got to tell you that was the biggest improvement for myself is giving myself permission, to do that work, to do write that IEP at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I can do it. I have the time to do it. So that's big. Excuse me. And then another perk is we do have some flexibility in our days. If you have to run to a doctor's appointment and you're gone for an hour, you just plan it around your time when you're not with students. We do additionally have PTO available too for those days that you need a whole day off or you need a few more, more than just an hour. We have PTO that's still available. So it's not just those scheduled holidays that are off. You still are able to take time off when you need to throughout. Our weeks, if you have an appointment, you might just, make up that half an hour later to finish the paperwork or whatnot. So it really helps to have, that home balance too. I can run and put my clothes into dry if I need to, which I don't keep up on. But it is very, it's a different perspective when you're used to being in that classroom all day and then still having to finish, at the end of the day and still having to do, those other things. So absolutely, that's a big, big life changer right there.
So Bethany, Gail asked a couple of really good questions. Number
Sure.
one, are they all self-contained or are we looking at resources? Well, and then what does it look like for students who can't sit for a long time?
Sure. So we have a couple different programs. We have our self-contained program, which is just for those students that are have those more severe cognitive impairments. So that would be that self-contained program where the students are with their certified cognitive impairment teacher throughout that day. And then we also have resource. So then that's separate, from our self-contained program. We have our resource teachers that have those goal areas that they work on with students. So they might just have a student with reading goals. So meet with them a couple times a week. And then otherwise the students are fully in the general education curriculum for the rest of the day. So they go to their typical fourth grade class for the day. And then they meet with the resource teacher just based on those IEP minutes. So students that aren't, we have students that stand and move around while they're in their sessions. We have students that have breaks as needed. If it's a 30-minute session and they need a 5-minute break, they get up and move. I have my self-contained teachers that do lots of movement breaks throughout the day because their students are with them for that, pretty much that entire time. But students have kind of that changing of classes throughout the day like they do in brick and mortar. So if they're in their gen ed class, for a class period, then they have a few minutes in between. So there actually is pretty good opportunity for movement for students throughout the day. Good questions.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I think brings kids to us, right? Is that they just can't sit for 6, 7 hours a day in a classroom, and um, often it's not just disruptive for themselves, right? Like they're having trouble learning, but it's impacting like a whole classroom of students, right? And so that being at home and having some flexibility, and the parents being able to say, "Oh, it's been a rough day. We're going to maybe catch the recording later. We're going to go take a walk and then try again and come back at it." I think that's why a lot of kids find success in our model. And do they have art gym or special classes? They do. So we have PE teachers at every grade level. We also have more, I would say, more elective options at middle and high school, where we have art teachers, technology teachers, world languages, um, lots of tech kind of things. Elementary, they do take art and or music, and actually they can take foreign languages if they want to as well. Some of that is more independent though, and that's where I think the clubs are really fun for them. Lego club and art club and cooking club and growing club. I mean, you name it, we probably have a club for it. But pet club is huge. Kids love the pets on their classes. So if you want a student to come to your class in a virtual model, have your cat on screen and they'll come every day. It's weird, but it works.
We have staff that also like to share their pets, so
Yeah, good questions.
trying to think of anything else in general. Okay, go ahead. I saw someone turn off their or turn on their mic for a second.
Hi,
Hello.
hi, this is Rhonda Spalding. I'm the
Hi,
one that
Rhonda.
accidentally put on iPhone. Sorry.
It's
I'm on
okay.
my way. I'm on my way to see my son play college ball for the first time, so I'm trying to multitask.
How
Um, I know it's so fun. I do have a question. Over COVID, I did work at an online school, and it was great, but the work-life balance wasn't there. I literally worked more than I've ever worked in a brick and mortar school because of the expectations of students passing. Do you have that kind of an expectation where it's, on the special ed teacher, if it's on our caseload, to make sure they pass and to do what needs to be done for that? Or how does that work?
So if a student is struggling, and if there are concerns, with the student not making progress, then we would treat it like we would, for any student with IEP needs that is not making progress in the curriculum. So it's not necessarily that it's hard to speak to what you're saying, just because I'm not really sure what that looked like as far as your days. um but that it would be a team approach to that student, not making progress in the curriculum, and we would revisit the IEP. That would not necessarily be you as the teacher, um doing things that wouldn't be part of the student supports already outlined in the IEP. So no, it wouldn't be like I said, it's hard to address exactly what you're saying, but the IEP minutes are there, the supports are there. If the student's still struggling, and I can think for high school especially, right? Because students are earning credits, and if that communication between the general education teacher, the resource teacher, and the family, that communication is huge. So we really try to problem solve for our students. We have student of concern meetings where we get together and look at specific students. The special education teacher has maybe a couple of students they're concerned about. So we actually have an MTSS process, and we have our data meetings every week where we actually meet together as a team based on whatever the needs are. High school special education teachers will meet with the high school general education teachers, and we will discuss specific student concerns. We will discuss maybe some accommodation needs, make sure accommodations are being followed. We really try to collaborate for those student concerns instead of
And
one person being, that's kind of what I'm hearing, is it was kind of put on your shoulders specifically, to resolve that.
Well, and I think I can chime in here too, because I know at a lot of charter schools, they operate on like a performance basis, right? So, and we do too. Like, I'll be upfront about that our raises and the bonus that we
I
offer.
apologize. Work completion level.
So we're losing you just a tiny bit, Rhonda, but again, I think I'm getting the gist. So yeah, we do have performance metrics that go along with, again, pay raises at the end and the bonus in the fall. But I've seen in some districts where, like what you're describing, that pressure to pass, and what are the metrics and how are you doing and are the kids completing? I'm not a fan of that model. I don't think that motivates anybody. So, really trying to be understanding of kids' needs and, staff needs. And of course, we want to work hard and we want to meet those goals, and we set goals for ourselves. Did your kids grow throughout the year? Gen Ed, we are looking at passing rates and we're thinking about those things. But no, not specific with, did your special education students meet all of their work requirements, and nothing that granular. I could see how that would cause a lot of unnecessary stress, just to try to get your job done. So again, we all work really hard and we have some performance metrics in place, but nothing so specific as that, I don't think.
What kind of support do you guys have if you have a student that goes MIA, like attendance problems and stuff like that? Is that like on you guys to hound the parents and stuff like that, or is there like a resource person that handles that for you? Or
we have such a great team. So especially with our students with special needs, I think that the case manager is a great person to call and reach out to that family and try to problem solve what's happening. So of course we ask our teachers to help and reach out with those things, but we have a team. It's called our FAST program, and that's our Family Academic Support Team. And our advisors work with a grade band of students, or with a specific caseload, depending on how big their grade band is. But they're the ones who are working on orientation. They're getting kids started. When we see, they're just not coming for attendance, they're reaching out to those students. We're trying to, pull them back in. We also this year have been able to expand our truancy team. So we have a truancy liaison at K-5 middle school and high school, where that's their whole day, is calling families, trying to pull them back in, making sure families understand. But again, it's all hands on deck. But ultimately, yeah, we have a whole team that's dedicated to, you have to log on. You have to log on and come to school, because teachers can't do all of that. And I feel really fortunate that we are able to have that program. Good question. So after hours or weekend requirements, so I would say there's nothing, how do I want to say this? So there isn't like, you're going to have the parent teacher conferences at 7 p.m. or, you have to do this event on Saturday, or you have to come to these things. Again, there are times of the year where it's pretty busy and you might be working on nights and weekends, but not necessarily as a requirement from us. And when we do have those opportunities, thanks, Laura. Laura's going to call me later, just so you guys know. She had to hop off, but it's when we have those opportunities. So an example is we did have parent-teacher conferences a couple of weeks ago with our elementary team. We offered flex time back to teachers, like, hey, if you can give us an hour of your time on Wednesday, why don't you take Friday afternoon off? And so really, again, trying to be respectful of everyone's time and making sure that, we really try to do those things within the day. Even our field trips and those outings, we're doing that during the week so that it's not an extra weekend ask of staff. Good questions.
Yeah, those are all great questions. Thank you, Bethany and Mary, for doing such a great job of sharing. And do we want to move into the breakout rooms, or do we want to?
Yeah, I think so. That way, if you have more questions, we can just talk about those one-on-one. So Bethany, do you maybe want to take Gail, and I will take Rhonda? I think
Sure. Yep, I will go into, let's see, I am going to hop into breakout room 1. Gail, if you would like to, at the bottom, you should be able to see the breakout rooms at the bottom of your screen. There's some little squares there and it says breakout rooms. If you click on that and you go to room 1, oh, it's not letting me. Oh, we have to open them. Okay, they're open now. Like, why won't it let me move to it? Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and hop in room 1, Gail, if you'd like to meet me in there, and then we can chat a little bit.
And then Rhonda, I know you're on your way to baseball. I think it was baseball. Do you have maybe 5 more minutes to chat with me?
Yes, I do. But I don't see the breakout room on my phone.
I don't see it either on my computer.
Let me see if I can assign you.
I think you might have to assign.
I see one, join. Yep, I'm
There
good.
you go. Okay,
Okay.
and then Gail, I'm gonna assign you to room 1.
Okay, got it.
Okay. All right, I'm heading to room 2 then.
Okay.
Thanks,
Bye,
Courtney.
guys.
Are we done?
Yes, my screen was frozen, but yeah, they're just gonna do those breakout rooms and then that'll be the end. So we're good to go. And I said I'll send you and then Bethany and Mary the list of all the registrants if you want to like reach out to the people who didn't attend or like follow up. But I'll send that to everyone.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, bye.
Thanks. Bye.